Hi, I'm C.C. Péan, and this is Reclaiming Your Health. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Reclaiming Your Health. I am your host, C.C. Péan, and I'm happy to be here with you. Thank you for joining us. I think this is our 26th episode, possibly. So thank you for joining us this evening. Hey, this evening, this is a very funny, well, the dish is not funny. The story behind the dish in my family is funny. So I grew up in a first generation home in San Francisco, California. And my father's from West Africa, my mother was from the West Indies. And one of the jokes that people often talk about in immigrant homes is you never go out to eat, right? There's never an excuse to go out to eat. My father would say, there's rice at home. You eat at home, there's rice at home. And so the few times that we were able to go out to eat, we had Asian food because we were in San Francisco. So most of my experiences early growing up, if we weren't eating Liberian food or Guyanese food at home, it was Chinese food. And later, when we got really swanky, we would have Thai food, or as my mother would pronounce it, Thai food. So anyway, one of the dishes that I grew up eating that I loved was Egg Foo Young. I don't know why, because I'm not really an egg lover, and now I'm vegan. But egg foo young was something that I really enjoyed. It's basically an Asian omelet, right? It's great veggies inside of it. So the other day, I said, you know what? I'm going to create an egg foo young recipe. So I started doing some research, seeing what was out there. Some people were using tofu, which I've used in the past. Some people were using chickpea flour, which I've used in the past. Some people were using just egg, which I've used in the past. So I decided to combine all three of those things. And when I tried it, it was delicious. And literally, you couldn't tell that it wasn't egg. So much so that I prepared it for my client, and they were a little miffed because they don't eat eggs. And they're like, you made us egg omelet, not real eggs. But here's the thing. This is what took the egg foo young recipe over the top. Guess what it is? I want you to guess what it is. Anybody have an idea? What took this egg foo young over the top and gave it the exact flavor of egg? Well, I'll tell you. Afkave's tofu scramble magic. Boom! You've got to try this. Okay, so stay with me. Yes, and that is one of the ingredients in my tofu scramble magic, but there's more. Wait, there's more. So if you have this in your cabinet, if you've purchased it, pull it out and cook this along with me. We come back and play this episode and the ingredients. We're going to share those ingredients with you. This is a home run. All right. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to open up our just egg. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to shake our just egg. We're going to actually use the whole container for this. It's going to make about 4 good-sized egg foo young omelets. I'm going to take this, I'm going to pour it in a bowl, pour it in my bowl, the whole thing. I'm going to add to that 2 tablespoons of chickpea flour. Chickpea flour is great. It's high in protein, garbanzo bean, chickpea. The Indian community knows it as besan flour. That's going to go in there because it's going to help thicken it up, and it's going to add some extra protein in there. And last but not least, for this portion, we're going to put in about a good heaping tablespoon of the tofu scramble magic. Okay? This is key. You don't only want it to look like an egg and cook like an egg, we want it to taste like an egg as well. So I'm combining all these ingredients, I'm whisking it together, and we're gonna set it aside. I have some rice cooking on the stove behind me. I also did some snow peas for this dish. So I'm gonna be turning around in a moment. Okay, so this is well mixed. It's well mixed and incorporated. Don't see any clumps in it. We're gonna leave this alone for a good 15 minutes. So I'm gonna do my timer. If it goes a little longer, that's fine, but 15 minutes. Okay, and our rice is done. We're gonna let that just kind of cool down a little bit. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, because we have to let this mixture rest for 15 minutes, we're gonna work on our sauce. Now, this sauce is really interesting because it has all these unique ingredients. It has some chicken broth, but we're using vegan chicken broth. It has a little bit of sugar. I'm going to use some monk fruit sugar. I have a little bit of sesame oil, a little tamari, which is the gluten-free soy sauce. So if you have a gluten issue, it's a great dish for you because the chickpea flour, the just egg, this is a total gluten-free dish. So we're going to use this. We're going to use a little bit of tamarind, a little bit of sesame oil, and I'm going to put a little bit of sriracha in there because I like a little bit of heat. So I'm going to put this here, and we're going to get this going. Let me rinse off my whisk. We're going to get this going. Let the pan warm up just a tad. This comes together very, very quickly. So I'm adding a cup of, monk fruit sugar. You can find that at Publix and Kroger's now. In the sugar aisle, just look for it, monk fruit sweetener. They have it even as confectioners. They have it very fine powdered. So it's great. It's really indistinguishable from real sugar. We use it a lot. We use monk fruit maple syrup. We use monk fruit like cane sugar, the kind of coarse one, and even the confectioners. So right now I'm going to add a cup of my vegan chicken broth. I'm going to let this warm up just a tad. To this, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of low sodium tamari. I'm going to add a little bit of sesame oil. I would say about a teaspoon. This is already smelling great. Now we're going to add our monk fruit sweetener. Continue to whisk to make sure that everything is well incorporated. And add a little bit of mirin, a tablespoon mirin. Ooh, that smells delightful. Now I'm going to add some of my heat. Add some sriracha. Okay, so that's all nice and dissolved. And the last thing we're going to do, we have about 3 tablespoons of cornstarch that I'm going to add to about an 1/8 cup of water. Dissolve that. You see how that's bubbling up already? Just going to dissolve this cornstarch in here because it's going to thicken up our sauce. And then we're going to put this aside and get to working on our egg foo young. Okay, so now that has dissolved, we're just gonna pour a bit of this in here, and while we're pouring, watch it because it's gonna start to thicken up. You may not need as much as I'm using. So, and some people like their gravy a little thicker, some like a little thinner. So, just pour it in and whisk away. See what happens. This is thickening up nice. I'm just going to leave it alone for a little bit. If you're able to see, you can't really see what's in the pot. Okay, so let me push this forward a bit. Can you see that now? Yeah, you can see that now. So now it's bubbling up. This is our gravy that's going to go over our rice and our egg foo young. Just going to let it cook a little while longer, just let it thicken up a little more. Okay, and our gravy is done. I'm going to take this off the fire. I'm going to put it behind me on the stove for when we're ready. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to try to keep this in. Can you all see this well now? You can see it pretty well now? Okay, I'm going to leave it right there. And now we're going to work on our egg foo young ingredients. We still have a few minutes, but we're going to get chopping the things that are going to go in this. Now, what's unique about this is you basically put everything in this mixture and then you ladle it into the pan, okay? It's really, really easy to do. So to this, I'm gonna add about, probably about a half a cup of shredded carrots. I bought this ready cut, you know, those packages you can buy at the store. So I have about a half a cup of carrot that's gonna go in there. I have some fresh ginger. Fresh ginger is key for this and really giving it that authentic flavor. We're gonna use fresh ginger. We have some mung beans. We have scallion, we have onion, and we have mushroom. Now, some people make egg foo young and they put peas in it, and they put, I mean, you can really put whatever you want in it. You know, these people, of course, they put meat in it. You can put minced meat in it, minced chicken, or you can use minced veggie meat if you want to. We're doing this completely vegetable, but those are the things that you can do. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna cut up a little bit of scallion because I want my scallion to go in there. And I'm probably gonna cut up about, I would say this is probably about an eighth of a cup. There's gonna be so much going into it, it's really gonna be flavorful. So you got about an eighth cup there. We have got some mushrooms. Just gonna take the stems out of these mushrooms. And I'm gonna slice these thinly. If you don't like mushrooms, don't add them. What would really be delicious to add would be shiitake mushrooms. That's what I wanted to add, but I couldn't find any at my local grocer, so I picked these up instead. But shiitake would really add more of that authentic Asian flavor, Asian restaurant flavor. Now, the rest of these vegetables go in the mixture, but the mushrooms actually cook on their own. Okay, so I'm going to put these to the side. I'm going to cut up a little bit of onion, not much, just a little bit. Do this, kind of mince it. Are you all able to see what I'm doing? Okay. This is going to be another, probably about another eighth cup. It's going to go in there. And what's next? Our ginger. Now here's a trick. I don't know how many of you know how to peel ginger. To peel ginger, you actually need to use a spoon. It's the fastest way to do it, and then this way you don't waste ginger. In the past, I've used a knife to cut ginger, and you end up wasting so much of it. This is the best way to do it. So look, hold it in your hand, hold your spoon like this, and just go like that. And the skin comes right off. Look at that. Skin comes right off. It's super easy. It's quick, it's efficient, and you're not wasting ginger. Go around because I'm not going to use much of this. I'm probably going to use about a quarter of an inch. We want the flavor, but we don't want it to be overwhelming. And ginger is, it's potent. So. Okay, I'm just going to rinse this off. I'm going to cut the little piece that I need. Okay, so we still have a little bit on here. Get rid of that with my spoon. All right. Need this up. And the time you're taking to prep your vegetables and things that go in there, your 15 minutes will likely elapse. So I'm going to cut some thin slices of this ginger. I would suggest you use less as opposed to more, especially if you're not used to ginger. Like I said, it's very strong flavor. So now I'm just going to thinly slice this. Now, a way around this would be to use the ginger puree that we've used in other recipes. You could do that. But you know how I love texture, so I always talk about adding texture to my dishes. So I thinly slice this, and now I'm going back over it, basically mincing the ginger. There we go. Okay. So we've got about 3 more minutes waiting for our mixture. And while we wait, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a little heat under these mushrooms and try to crisp them up just a tad. I've been looking down for a bit, so I don't know if you all have been asking me questions. I also have 2 cloves of ginger that I'm going to break down with this. Love this little machine, this little contraption. It makes, look at that. You see that? All of my garlic is inside. Love this thing. It's my 2 cloves of garlic. And all of these things are going inside our Egg Foo Young. I haven't done the mung beans yet, but we're going to. I'm going to put a little bit of sesame oil in this pan. Just a little bit. You can also use spray oil if you would like to. And I'm just going to drop these mushrooms in here and let them get a little bit of heat and crispness to them. Okay, so while we're doing that, the last vegetable we're going to prep are our mung beans. And you have to cut these. Just cut them coarsely, but they need to be cut. Because you need this omelet to fit in your pan. And if these are not cut, they're going to take up a lot of space. All right, so now we're good. We have our carrots that we're going to use. We have our mung bean, our ginger, our onions, our scallions, and our mushrooms are cooking. Let's fry those up just a little bit. Again, I was sharing that shiitake, if you really want to be like authentic, those shiitake mushrooms in it. Now, Stan Mackey, producer of this show and the founder of Reclaiming the Reclamation Project, was telling me he did a little bit of research on Egg Foo Young, and he found that it was created in San Francisco. So how apropos that this is a dish I remember because I'm from San Francisco. So maybe it was like the hot dish at that time when I was growing up because how my parents ordered it. I don't know. where mushrooms are coming along nicely. I just heard my alert behind me, so we're coming up on our 15 minutes. We've got about 30 seconds. Now, for this egg foo young, I'm going to tell you, you really need to use a non-stick pan. Or if you're somebody who has a really great non-stick spray, so you can use it on a stainless steel pan, go for it. But if this is your first time doing it, second or maybe even third time doing it egg foo young, I would suggest you use a non-stick pan. Okay, so our mushrooms are done. Now we're going to put this all together. Our alarm just went off. And we are going to assemble, put everything in this bowl and get ready to make our egg foo young. So our mushrooms are going to go straight in that mixture. To that mixture, we're going to add about 2 teaspoons worth of the tamari. We're going to add about 2 teaspoons of the mirin and about a teaspoon of our sesame oil. Okay, so we've already got our mushrooms in there. To that, we're going to add our 1/4 to 1/2 cup of carrots. We're going to add our mung beans that we've cut up, and that's probably about a cup of roughly chopped mung bean. And then we're going to add our ginger, our garlic, our onions, and our scallions, all going into this mixture. Pull it closer to me. Clean up a little bit. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to mix this together. Okay, so you see how that's mixing? You want your vegetables, you want a lot of veggies in there, because this omelet is going to crisp up around this, these veggies. And you don't, the good thing about egg foo young is it cooks until it's done. So it's not a traditional omelet that's light and fluffy and yellow. There are actually going to be some crispy brown parts on this omelet, and that is perfectly fine. That's what you want. Okay, so this is mixed together now. We've got our hot pan. And again, you can use non-stick spray if you would like to. I'm going for a bit of the authentic taste and flavor. So I'm going to put my sesame oil in there. I would say that's about a good tablespoon. And this is smoking, so I hope my alarm doesn't go off. All right, so I'm going to let this cool down. I think my oil is a little hot. So your heat on your pan needs to be about medium high. I'm going to let that cool down a little bit. So you can edit that out and we get rid of this stuff. Okay. Is this close enough for you all to see? This thing is hot. Can you all see it well? I'll try to move it closer. I think this is probably best for you all to see. Yeah? Can you all tell me? Can you see it? Oh, yeah, you can see it well. Push it up a little further. Excellent. Okay. So now let's get ready to make our egg foo young omelet. So we've got all of our veggies mixed in with our just egg, our chickpea flour, and our tofu scramble magic. And in here we have mushrooms, we've got scallions, garlic, ginger, carrot shreds. What else we have? And onions. So I'm going to use a 1/2 cup scoop. And I'm going to scoop up the veggies. And you want to make sure that you have some liquid inside, okay? Because you want that egg mixture. And you're going to put it right in this. right in the center of your pan. Okay? And just swirl the oil around a little bit. What's great about this just egg is you can really manipulate it. So if you want to kind of like push in the sides and shape your omelet, you can do that after a few seconds of it cooking, which is what I'm doing. And this is like on a medium-high heat. We don't want it to cook too fast because we don't want it to burn. This looks great. And this is something that you are going to have to pay attention to. You're going to start to see bubbles around the edges, which lets you know it's cooking, but you don't want to flip it until you start to see bubbles in the center, because obviously that's where it's thickest, because that's where most of the vegetables are. Now, one of the things you can do, you can gingerly kind of manipulate the veggies so that they're not all concentrated in one spot. But just do that gently, because that will cut down the cooking time. And I'm just going to continue to move my oil around the exterior. It's cooking beautifully. You can see I've got a lot of bubbles around the edge. And now I'm starting to get bubbles in the center. So I would definitely suggest that when you put it in the pan, gently and gingerly kind of distribute the vegetables so that it's kind of even around the omelet, so that it cooks evenly and quickly. Okay. So we're going to cook it for about 3 minutes on the first side over medium-high heat, and about 1.5 to 2 minutes on the second side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get ready to plate while this last one is cooking. So I mentioned that I made some rice earlier and I did some snow peas. Now, I'm making this like how I remember as a child. So it was Egg Foo Young, it was sticky white rice, snow peas, and this really like silky gravy. And you saw me make the gravy earlier. This is about good. I'm gonna turn this off. Let me get my rice. Here's my rice. You can use brown rice if you want. You can use quinoa if you want. You can use any grain you want. But because I'm having a ratatouille moment here, I'm going to use sticky white rice. And here's a little tip. If you want to make your plating look next level, use something like this. I'm using this bowl and I'm going to form my rice in here. It's going to be a perfect mound. I'm going to put it right in the center of my bowl. And there you go. So that's part one. So now we are going to plate this dish. What we have is we have some rice, some white rice. I know. We have some white rice. We put that kind of off center. And we're going to use half of one of these. We're not going to use a whole one because they're pretty big. So, well, that's good to know because that lets you know that you have quite a few servings when you make this. So we're just going to kind of drape it a little bit over the side. Now I'm going to put a little bit of my gravy, this rich, thick gravy. Again, you use as much or as little as you want. Okay, that looks great. I've got some snow peas that I stir-fried in some sesame oil earlier. We're going to put a few of those on the plate just to add some color because we're eating the rainbow. So we want it to not only look good, but we want it to taste good as well. So we've got our snow peas there. And finally, we're going to add some of our mung beans, some fresh mung beans right on top. And we're gonna add some snow peas. I was able to find some pea, what are these called? Like microgreens, pea microgreens. Isn't that lovely? So we're just gonna place those on top. Now tell me that does not look like a restaurant dish. Look at this. Is that lovely? This is vegan egg foo young. And you know what? I'm gonna grab this because I moved it. The key ingredient to this dish for flavor is my tofu scramble magic. We use just egg, which has the color, it has the texture. We use a little bit of chickpea flour, which added more protein and thickened it up as well. But the flavor, people, comes from this tofu scramble magic. That's what makes this egg foo young taste like egg. I promise you, you try this in this recipe, next level. So this is our egg foo young, white rice, snow peas. There's mung bean in this, there's carrots, there's fresh ginger, there's garlic, there's onion, there's scallion, there's mushrooms. This is eating the rainbow elegantly. Can you imagine if someone came to your home and you had this on the table in front of them? They would be wowed. It's so simple and it's delicious. Well, thank you for joining us this week. We look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you for joining me on Reclaiming Your Health.